So today I'm joined with two special guests. First of all, we have Jennifer, who does amazing drawings. I'm sure me and Shannon can both agree. And then we are joined with Shannon Mcgregor. Hi everyone, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Shannon?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So first of all, we're just going to start with some icebreaker questions to really get into the episode. So first question is, what is your highlight from Hibs overall?
I think I've got a few, to be honest, but I think my biggest highlight is probably playing in Champions League. So playing Champions League.
Nice. What was your highlight from this season?
It's a difficult one for me because I've only played half a season, so I think it's probably being consistent, injury-free until obviously that happened there. But it's difficult to say that just because of the injury that I've had.
Yeah. So here's a few questions about the squad. So who has the best music in the squad?
That's a difficult one. Everyone's a bit different. I'd probably say Leah Eddy because she likes quite chilled music, and that's kind of what I like. And sometimes it depends on the day as well. Sometimes I quite like Siobhan's music, but I would say Siobhan and Leah.
Who's the hardest trainer?
Hmm. That's a difficult one. Probably Lucy Parry.
Who is the most skillful? Who's always in the skills and you're just like, how can you do that?
I would say Mickey, but she hardly means it half the time. It's just a fluke.
Who is the manager's pet? Always talking to the manager about the match.
Mickey, definitely.
Who moans the most?
Siobhan, definitely.
And who's the smartest?
Kirsty Morrison.
And the last one, who's the best but also the worst dressed?
Is that two questions, or like is that meant to be two people?
Two questions. Who's got the best and who's got the worst?
I think it depends on your style. I would say Benny has got the worst because of our socks, but we all love our socks. And best, I would say, I don't really know. Everyone's so different in this team. It's not like there's one that stands out. So I don't really have one, to be honest.
Yeah. So you touched on it, that you've only played half the season, and that was because of an injury that happened against. Well, it's been happening, and then it came apparent in the Spartans game. So, kind of when it happened, did you know all of a sudden that it'd be season ending, or did you have the hope that it wouldn't? And how was that for you?
To be honest, I didn't think I was going to have to get surgery. During that process, the physio thought it was just due to load. So they thought I had tightness in my glute and my IT band. So we all thought that was pulling on my knee that was causing the pain. And obviously we ended up finding out that was not the case. It's to do with the joint and the cartilage. So I think it was difficult at that point because you thought it wasn't going to be that long of a period of time being out for football. And then it resulted in obviously being out the rest of the season.
I'll pass on to Jenny for a question.
How do you stay motivated when things get tough?
I think you need to take it out in loads of different ways. So I think for me, I still work. I think that helps me a lot. So I still do my beauty work 2 days a week. So that keeps me occupied. And also think being around the team helps as well, like being a part of the group, even though you're not on the pitch, you're still a part of the team. I think that helps motivating. yourself in your rehab, but as well as just motivating yourself for day-to-day living, because it's difficult when you're not doing what you love to do every day.
Yeah. And what is your pre-match rituals? Like, what do you do before a match?
I don't really have a particular routine. I always just make sure I eat plenty of food beforehand.
And the
So,
final one. Go on.
who would you say has helped you the most mentally but also physically with the injury? Like, as in, is there someone that's always there on the hand, just being like, do you need to talk, or kind of who would you say has been there for the most for their injuries?
I wouldn't say there's anyone in particular. I think Hibs as a team, we're always there for each other, especially during injuries like mine. And it's like knee injuries that are a long period of time. We've got players that are always putting an arm around you. And I also think as well, me and Smalley are out at the same time, so we're sharing the same issues, we're sharing the same kind of rehab and things as well. So we've got each other to do that.
Jenny, do you want to go?
What made you fall in love with football?
I don't really know, to be honest. I've got a bigger brother, and my mum says as soon as I could walk, I was kicking a ball. So it was probably just watching my big brother growing up with a ball at his feet.
So, talking about injuries, you've obviously had the one a couple of seasons back. What would you say is something that you learned from that injury that's kind of helped you a lot deal with this injury?
Well, they're two completely different injuries this time. I feel because, well, this is my third knee injury. So the second one I had was really difficult because it was through COVID. So that was, I felt like I kind of had lack of support because I couldn't see physios. When you go to hospitals, it was very limited. So I think that one was really difficult because it was through the pandemic. But this one, before I got my operation, I felt was very challenging to deal with as well because it was kind of the unknown. And I'd never heard of the injury that I've got. So I had to do a little bit of research on women's footballers that have had this similar injury to mine. And I found out that everyone's different, everyone's bodies react different to the same injuries. So I'm not sure how I would say I dealt with it differently. I think different injuries you deal with in different ways. So I think, yeah, you just need to take day by day and push yourself forward every day.
And then another question was, within women's football, especially in the last couple of years, there has been more and more like ACL injuries and just injuries in general. And I think I would say that more research needs to be done, but I was wondering if there's anything that you found hard with not much research being put into women's football as much as maybe other sports as well.
Yeah, this is something I've always wanted to know more about. I've spoke to a lot of sports scientists, a lot of physios, a lot of players in our league and obviously in other leagues across just the world when you've been travelling playing football for Scotland youth teams as well. So when you're talking about these things, there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of research and science being put into ACL injuries in women's footballers. I think now that Beth Mead done hers, I think that's allowed more research to be put in place because they've got more money to be doing that kind of things, which is going to help the Scottish League as well, because I know the girls most of the girls in Scotland that have done their ACL have been in a phase of their menstruation cycle, so a lot in phase one whilst they do their ACL. So I think that's really important to be looked into more, and I know that our sports science here he's really keen on looking into that as well, and I think he knows somebody that's doing a little bit of research into that, which is really good. And I'm going to talk to him more about that just to know a little bit more information on it.
I've got one more question about injuries, and then I've got a few like other kind of icebreakers as well. So the question is about injuries in general. Like, what would you say, or one thing that keeps you going for your injuries? Is there like a quote that's always in your head, or is there kind of just like a ritual that you have for the future of like, okay, I'm injured now, but what can keep me going until I can get out the injury kind of thing?
I always kind of think the quote, setbacks always make you stronger. And I believe that's true. However, it doesn't make it any easier. I think it's still difficult through that process, but it does make you stronger in the long run.
So the last couple of questions I have was, what is the best stadium you've ever played in?
The best what, sorry?
Stadium.
I'd probably say Parkhead at Celtic Park. For myself, I'm a Celtic fan, so it was an incredible feeling to walk out to Parkhead.
And what's like your dream stadium to play in?
I don't really have a dream stadium, to be honest. I don't when we play bigger stadiums, I try not to think about it. I focus on the game, so I don't really have one in particular.
Who would you say is the joker of the team?
Probably Siobhan Hunter.
So obviously the news came out last year that you two got engaged on holiday. So what's it like being in the same team as your partner?
I find it really easy, to be honest. We don't really, well, this is essentially work for us, so we don't really act as if we're together at football. So we kind of keep work to being work, and then we can live our life together outside football. So yeah, we don't really, I mean, we do associate with each other in football, but just as teammates.
Jenny, have you got any other questions?
No, nothing from me.
I've got one more. So what was your go-to pre-match? Well, I've got two. What's your go-to pre-match meal? But also, what's like your probably unhealthy treat kind of favorite meal?
My go-to pre-match meal would be chicken and pasta. It has to be like a spicy tomato sauce. And my treat meal would probably be a Chinese.
What do you get from the Chinese?
I get a beef satay, boiled rice, and salt and pepper chips.
Thank you so much for joining me, Jennifer and Shannon. It's been a great first interview for my channel and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.